I begged her to come see our son in the ICU. She said she'd try. Days later, I saw where she really was, and who she was with. That moment changed everything. I'll never forget what I saw. I don't know how to start this without sounding like I'm trying to make you feel sorry for me. I'm not. I just want to tell it straight. No drama, no embellishments. Just what happened. Maybe it'll help me understand it better myself. My name's Mark. I'm 42. I live in a small town outside of Columbus, Ohio. I work in HVAC. Nothing fancy, but it pays the bills. I've got a son, Tyler. He's 9. Smart kid. Loves dinosaurs and baseball. Used to draw these crazy hybrid creatures, like a T-Rex with wings and a jetpack. Said he was going to be a paleontologist and an inventor. I used to joke that he'd be the first guy to dig up a fossil and then bring it back to life with some machine he built in the garage. His mom's name is Rachel. We split up 5 years ago. It wasn't a messy divorce, not at first. We just stopped working. She wanted more excitement, more travel, more of something I couldn't give. I wanted stability. I wanted to come home to the same house, the same kid, the same life. She moved to Chicago a year after we split. Said she needed a fresh start. I didn't fight it. I figured she'd come back when she missed Tyler enough. She didn't. She called sometimes. Sent gifts on birthdays. But she never made the trip. Not once. Tyler used to ask about her. I told him she loved him, just had a lot going on. Eventually he stopped asking. I think that was harder than the questions. Anyway, 2 months ago, Tyler got sick. It started with a fever. Then vomiting. Then he couldn't keep water down. I took him to the ER. They ran tests. I thought it was the flu. It wasn't. It was bacterial meningitis. I didn't even know what that meant at first. The doctor said it was serious. That it could spread fast. That it could kill him. They moved him to the ICU. He was hooked up to machines. Tubes in his arms, wires on his chest. I sat next to him for hours, just watching him breathe. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I just waited. Every time the monitor beeped, I jumped. On the second day, the doctor said they might have to induce a coma. His brain was swelling. They needed to give it time to rest. I nodded like I understood, but I didn't. I just kept thinking, he's 9. He's supposed to be drawing jetpack dinosaurs, not lying in a hospital bed with his eyes closed. That night, I called Rachel. I hadn't talked to her in months. I didn't care. I just needed her to come. I needed her to see him. I needed her to sit next to me and hold his hand and tell him it was going to be okay. She picked up on the third ring. I told her everything. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. Not yet. I just laid it out. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I'll see what I can do." I lost it. I told her to stop talking like she was checking her schedule. I told her this wasn't a meeting or a dinner reservation. I told her our son might die. I told her to get in a car or on a plane or whatever the hell she needed to do and get here. She said, "I'll try." I said, "Don't try. Just come." She hung up. I waited. I kept checking my phone. Every time it buzzed, I thought it was her. It wasn't. I called again the next morning. No answer. I texted. Nothing. I called again that afternoon. Straight to voicemail. Tyler was still in the coma. The doctors said he was stable, but they couldn't promise anything. I sat there, holding his hand, whispering stories about dinosaurs and jetpacks and baseball games. I told him about the time he hit a foul ball that bounced off the bleachers and hit me in the head. He laughed so hard he dropped his bat. I told him I still had the bump. I kept hoping Rachel would walk through the door. I imagined it, her face pale, eyes wide, rushing to the bed, saying she was sorry, saying she was here. I imagined Tyler waking up and seeing her and smiling. I imagined us standing there together, watching him come back to life. She didn't come. On the third day, I left the hospital for an hour. I needed clothes. I hadn't showered. I felt like a ghost. I drove home, grabbed a bag, changed my shirt. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. Then I picked up my phone and called her again. Still nothing. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe it was anger. Maybe it was desperation. But I opened Facebook. I hadn't looked at her profile in months. She didn't post much. Mostly pictures of food and sunsets and quotes about self-care. But that day, there was a new photo. It was taken at a rooftop bar. You could see the skyline behind her. She was smiling. Her hair was curled. She was wearing a red dress. Next to her was a man I didn't recognize. Tall, clean-shaven, arm around her waist. They were holding glasses of wine. The caption said, "Perfect night with the perfect guy." It was posted 12 hours ago. While our son was in a coma. While I was sitting in a hospital room begging her to come. While I was whispering stories to a boy who might never wake up. I stared at the photo for a long time. I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel heartbreak. I felt something colder. Something quieter. Like a switch had flipped. I put the phone down. I went back to the hospital. I sat next to Tyler. I told him I loved him. I told him I was there. I didn't mention her again. Not to him. Not to anyone. But I didn't forget. The next few days were a blur. Tyler stayed in the coma. The doctors said the swelling had gone down a little, but they couldn't say when or if he'd wake up. I kept showing up. Morning to night. I read to him. I played his favorite songs. I brought in his sketchbook and flipped through the pages, describing each drawing like it was a museum exhibit. I told him about the time he tried to build a robot out of cereal boxes and duct tape. I told him I still had it in the garage. I didn't hear from Rachel. Not a call. Not a text. Not even a message asking how he was. I didn't tell anyone what I'd seen on Facebook. I didn't want sympathy. I didn't want people to say, she's a monster, or, you're better off. I didn't want to hear it. I just wanted to be there for my son. On the 6th day, Tyler opened his eyes. It was slow. Like he was waking up from the deepest sleep imaginable. He blinked a few times. Looked around. Tried to speak, but his throat was dry. I called the nurse. They came in, checked his vitals, smiled. Said it was a good sign. I cried. Not loud. Just a quiet, shaking kind of cry. Relief, mostly. And something else, something like guilt. Because in that moment, I didn't think about Rachel. I didn't think about what she'd missed. I just thought, he's here. He's still here. Recovery was slow. He couldn't walk at first. His muscles were weak. He had headaches. He got frustrated. But he was alive. And every day, he got a little stronger. He started drawing again. The first thing he sketched was a dinosaur with a bandage on its head and a rocket strapped to its back. He called it Recovery Rex. I laughed. I told him it was his best one yet. A week after he woke up, I got a text from Rachel. It said, "How's Tyler?" That was it. No apology. No explanation. Just 3 words. I stared at the screen for a long time. I thought about all the things I could say. I could tell her he was okay. I could tell her she missed everything. I could tell her about the machines and the coma and the drawings and the way he whispered, "Dad," when he first woke up. I didn't reply. She texted again the next day. "I'm sorry. I was overwhelmed. I didn't know what to do." I didn't reply to that either. I wasn't trying to punish her. I just didn't have anything left to say. A few weeks later, Tyler was discharged. We went home. I set up his bed in the living room so I could keep an eye on him. He watched cartoons. He drew. He asked questions about what happened. I told him the truth, mostly. I said he got really sick, but the doctors helped him. I said I stayed with him the whole time. He asked if Mom came. I paused. Then I said, "No, buddy. She didn't." He looked down at his sketchbook. Didn't say anything. Just started drawing again. I didn't know what he was feeling. I didn't push. I just sat next to him and watched. A month after we got home, Rachel showed up. No warning. No call. Just knocked on the door one afternoon. I opened it. She was standing there with a bag of toys and a nervous smile. I didn't say anything. She said, "Can I see him?" I stepped aside. Tyler was on the couch, watching a documentary about sharks. He looked up. Saw her. His face didn't change. He just said, "Hi." She walked over. Sat down. Tried to hug him. He let her, but didn't hug back. She stayed for an hour. Asked him questions. Told him she missed him. He nodded. Gave short answers. When she left, he didn't ask when she'd be back. That night, I asked him how he felt. He said, "I don't know. It's weird." I said, It is." He said, "She didn't come when I was sick." I said, "I know." He said, "But you did." I didn't say anything. Just reached over and squeezed his hand. Rachel started texting more after that. Said she wanted to be involved. Said she wanted to make up for lost time. I didn't stop her. I didn't encourage her either. I let Tyler decide. Sometimes he replied. Sometimes he didn't. I didn't tell him about the photo. About the rooftop bar. About the man with the wine glass and the perfect night. I figured he'd learn eventually. Maybe not the details, but the truth. That some people show up, and some people don't. And sometimes, the ones who don't, they have their reasons. They have their excuses. They have their perfect nights. But when your kid is in a hospital bed, hooked up to machines, fighting to stay alive, none of that matters. You either show up, or you don't. And I did. That's all I know. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this.